Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. And I'm Jen Jen. And today is going to be a True Crime Corner video. And yes, it's the long awaited part 2 of Theodore Bundy, or Ted Bundy. I do apologize. There were several reasons why I did not get to record the second part of this. The first being I was trying to prepare myself for my state licensing exam, and I just kind of some of the videos took a backseat, and one of this second part of this happened to be that. Secondly, I really sat here and also was debating on whether or not I was going to continue true crime, just because recently I noticed there's been a slight decline in views and just people subscribing. I've lost several, which I'm not concerned about, but there's a lot of reasons. There was a couple of reasons why I was thinking about just like saying, okay, you know what, screw it, I'm done, whatever. So we're going to get back to this, and I really do apologize. I know that there are a lot of you out there that like my true crime, and I'm trying to change trying to change the way that I present it to you guys, and I'm just trying to find something that's easy for me, and I don't want to be like everybody else. So you guys have any ideas, please feel free to comment below. But we're going to get started. Now, I left off part 2 was where we left off, where he was in Florida. And now we went through, you guys know his history. I don't need to repeat it. But those of you that don't remember, he went from Colorado, or from Chicago to Florida by the way of Michigan, and he then drove to Atlanta, where he boarded a bus. Now, the reason that he went to the other side of the country from Washington is because, and Chicago and Utah and wherever, is because he escaped from authorities, and he just escaped and just went on and just moved to a different place. So we're gonna pick up where he's now on his way to Florida. So he rents a Holiday Inn in Tallahassee, Florida, where he rented a room under an alias, and it was at a boarding house near the university. Yeah, near Florida State University. But he had initially resolved to find some kind of legitimate employment, and basically he was just going to stop, killing, doing whatever he wanted to. This is his thing. This is what he's thinking. He wanted to stop killing, and he just wanted to find legitimate employment, and that was, his goal, now that he was no longer, in the sights of law enforcement, or so he thought, I guess. So, he, his thought behind all this was he knew that if he, retained legitimate employment, he could stay off the radar of, the authorities and so forth. So that was his purpose. Now, as you know, it didn't work. Which, there's no way it would have worked. That's, how he is. like I've said, I've watched several documentaries and movies about him, and he is just that type of person that there's no way that it would have, I don't think he would have lasted being legal or trying to be, somewhat legal. And it just wouldn't have worked. There's just no way, because his personality wouldn't have let it. So he does get a job, or he did get a job. He applied at a construction site, and the only reason that he did not continue with the application process and continue, I guess, with the process of the job, is because they asked him for ID. So he abandoned that whole idea. He didn't get a job or anything. So now, because of this, he reverted back to his habits of shoplifting and stealing money and credit cards from women's wallets that were left in shopping carts. And this is one reason why I don't leave my pocketbook. This is one reason why I don't take a pocketbook with me to the store. I keep my wallet in my hand because, people like this just, So he, so now we're going to skip to January the 15th of 1978. 1 week after he arrives in Tallahassee, he entered a sorority house through the rear door of the sorority house. Now, like I said, I don't know what possessed him to do this. It doesn't explain. It doesn't go into detail as to why he decided to all of a sudden just do that. But then again, it's Ted Bundy. Why would there be an explanation? So he goes through the rear door, and there was a faulty lock on the door. And this all begins at 2:45 a.m. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to kind of give you guys a little disclaimer. Some of this stuff will be gross. This is not for children to listen to. So if there are children that like to watch true crime and are listening, please do not have them listen to this. He enters the door, or enters, and he bludgeons Margaret Bowman, age 21, with a piece of oak firewood as she slept. Then, with a nylon stocking, he garroted her. He then enters the bedroom of another student, of Lisa Levy, and beats her unconscious, strangles her, bites her on her left buttock, sexually assaults her with a hair mist bottle. He also, now this is like I said, explicit, so I'm giving you all a warning. He also tears off one of her nipples. No, it didn't. I didn't even want to say it. So now, then he goes to another bedroom, which is adjoining to the bedroom he's in. He attacks Kathy Kleiner, breaking her jaw and lacerating her shoulder, and Karen Chandler, who suffered a concussion, a broken jaw, and loss of teeth. I mean, this man is very, I don't even know how to describe this man, because he's very violent. So he, he does all this to these women. So now, and she also had a crushed finger. Now, Chandler and Kleiner survived the attack, and they attributed their survival to the fact that automobile headlights that were, I guess, passing by illuminated the room, and it frightened away the attacker. So he got scared, I guess, of getting caught by somebody or being seen. So now, what the detectives in Tallahassee determined that these attacks all took place, where was I? In a total of 15 minutes or less. So this guy, I mean, he was on some kind of yeah, I don't know if his adrenaline was pumping or what, but this took less than 15 minutes. So now there was, and the funny part, okay, now, like I said, less than 15 minutes or 15 minutes, there were 30 other people in the house. Nobody heard anything. So now after he leaves the sorority house, Ted Bundy then goes to, he broke into an apartment 8 blocks away, and then attacks another student, Cheryl Thomas, and dislocates her shoulder, fracturing her jaw and her skull in 5 places. And she was left permanently deaf, and her equilibrium, there was damage to her equilibrium that ended her dancing career. Then on her bed, they found a semen stain and a pantyhose as a mask that contained 2 hairs similar to Bundy's in class and characteristic. So, he kind of goofed up there. I don't think he meant to, and I don't think he realized that he did. Which I think is kind of, weird in its own way, because, you got to remember, he's been very, very, how do I put it? He was very, very careful in Washington and all those other places. He was very careful about what he did. So I don't know if he was trying to get himself caught or what his purpose was in that. So now he drives 150 miles to Jacksonville. And he makes kind of a boo-boo here. I don't think he meant, I don't think he realized who this girl was, but he makes kind of a boo-boo. He goes all the way to Jacksonville. Now, the daughter of the Jacksonville Police Department chief of detectives is in Jacksonville. Okay, why? I don't know. I don't know if that's where he, the family lives or what. But he goes there to approach 14-year-old Leslie Parmenter. And he identifies himself as Richard Burton from the fire department. Now, what that purpose was, I don't know. I don't know if he realized or if he knew who she was when he did this. It doesn't, doesn't give me any kind of idea. But he didn't get very far because her older brother shows up and challenges him. So now he leaves. He goes back. He backtracks 60 miles to Lake City. And then at Lake City, at the junior high school, there is 12-year-old, what is her name? 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. She was summoned to her homeroom, stating that she had forgotten her purse and she never came back to class. So now 7 weeks later, they, after doing a very, very intensive search, they find her, and she's mummified by this time, and they find her body, and They found her in a pig farrowing shed in the Shawnee River State Park, 35 miles northwest of Lake City. And she had been sexually assaulted, in other words, raped, and killed by neck lacerations with a knife. So he's not giving a crap about the age anymore. Now, as you notice, when he got to Florida, it started off with college students. Now, I don't know if he's just taking this out now on younger kids because of, I'm not really sure what that deal is. I don't know why he switched. It doesn't really say. But there has, like I told you guys in the first part of this, there was, possible connections to him, doing this to minors at one point. So I'm really, like I said, I'm not really sure. So now on February the 12th, with insufficient cash to pay his rent, and there's a growing suspicion that the police were closing on him, he steals a car and he flees Tallahassee. And he doesn't get very far, which I think is kind of stupid. But 3 days later, he is stopped in Pensacola by the police. And they, he's near the Alabama state line because he's trying to get out of the state. Okay? And he stopped after a once-in warrant check showed that his Volkswagen Beetle was stolen. So when he was told that he was under arrest, he decides, okay, I'm not getting arrested. I'm going to try to get out of this. And he kicks the police officer's legs out from under him. And he starts running. Now, he doesn't get very far. Okay? Obviously, he's not thinking straight in his head. I don't know why. I don't know. Again, who knows what's going through this man's mind. He takes off running. The officer fires a warning shot, followed by a second, and then gave chase and tackled him. So he didn't get very far. Either that or he's not really that fast. So now the two, they struggle over his gun, and the officer finally is able to subdue Ted Bundy. And now, which I think is kind of crazy, and I don't understand this part. He arrests him. They find in the vehicle, they find 3 sets of IDs that belong to female Florida State University students, 21 credit cards that were stolen, a stolen television set. They also found a pair of dark-rimmed non-prescription glasses and a pair of plaid slacks, and that was later identified as the disguise that he wore when he went to confront Leslie Parmenter. Or went to, So now he's being transported to jail. Unaware that that the officer is transporting, not knowing and had no idea that, and which I don't understand this because, he's on FBI's, most wanted list. He's one of the top 10. I don't know how this officer didn't know that. Okay. And he's transported, unaware that he's arrested, one of FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives, and he hears Bundy say, "I wish you had killed me." And see, I don't understand, to me, maybe he realized, okay, I'm not getting out of this, you should have just gone ahead and killed me, that way I wouldn't have to spend my life in jail. But again, it's just kind of weird that, he would kind of say that after all of this time that he's been running and been caught, and now, oh yeah, he can't get out of this one. So now he's he's in jail. So now and now this is kind of crazy, they changed the venue of the trial. There's a lot of reasons why they changed it. And so they changed it to Miami. And why do I have these sticking together? So now, this is where the trial took place, was in Miami. So now he's in Miami, getting ready to go through a trial. Now, again, you know how he is. If you guys remember from the last part, the first part, he likes to act as his own attorney. That's just how much of an ego he has. So now he again, says, okay, he sabotages the entire defense effort because out of spite, and not only that, because he doesn't trust them. And so he does all this at the beginning. And what I find interesting is that he knows that he's facing murder charges with a possible death sentence. And all that matters to him is that he's in charge. So again, it makes no sense to me. This man is just really, really weird. And, okay. But he, now, there was a member of the defense team. His name is Mike Minerva, and he was a public defender. And there was a pretrial bargain that was negotiated in which Bundy would plead guilty, and he would plead guilty to killing Levy, Bowman, and Leach in exchange for a firm 75-year sentence. So in other words, he can't get out of the sentence, basically. If he pleads guilty to those 3 murders, he gets 75 years, and that's it. But, okay, Bundy saw this plea deal as not only a way to avoid the death penalty, but he also considered it a tactical move. Now, here's the reason being, okay? He figured that he could enter his plea, then wait a few years for the evidence to either disintegrate, get lost, or for the witnesses to die, move on, or retract their testimony. And I don't think he thought this out really well, I don't think he thought about this long and hard, but that wasn't the case. So at the last minute, the case deteriorated beyond repair, and before he could file a motion to set aside the plea and secure an acquittal, he could. Now, at the last minute, he decides and refuses the deal. And his reason being, and I'll quote what Minerva says, it made him realize he was going to have to stand up in front of the whole world and say he was guilty. And he just couldn't do it. Now, I don't know if he was scared or what the deal was. But yeah, he just couldn't face it. He couldn't face the music, knowing, okay, I put this plea in, and I don't think he really thought this out when he accepted the plea. Like I said, he accepted the plea for one reason only. Because he thought, okay, all the witnesses are either going to retract their statement, and the case is just going to fall apart because, evidence and so forth is going to be gone or whatever. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't realize, okay, this isn't going the way I expect it to. And, now, he's got this deal and there's no way he can get out of it. And he just isn't going to stand up and, allocute. There's just no way. So now at the trial, there is some testimony that was crucial, and it came from one of the sorority members of the Chi Omega house, and she places Bundy in the vicinity of the sorority house that night. And Anita Neary saw him leaving the sorority house, clutching the oak murder weapon. So he was seen. He got caught, whether he knew it or not. He had been seen. Now, could they make, that connection? Is, the thing. So now, what's even more incriminating is the bite marks that, were found on Lisa Levy was, they basically wanted teeth impressions from Ted Bundy. And I remember this, and I don't remember, if this is true, and because it is part of the movie, so I can't, like I said, the movie, there's a lot of movies that I was kind of, but one of the movies I remember this, they wanted impressions of his mouth, of his teeth. And if I'm not mistaken, he did try to get out of that. He wanted to, basically wanted to have his teeth pulled, or something about he feigned a toothache or something. I can't remember. So now, they match, the impressions to him. So basically, he can't get out of this. There's just no way on, God's earth that he's going to get out of this now that they have the actual teeth marks and they've matched it to her butt. That's the only way I can put it, to her butt. And so now, they impose the sentence of 2 counts of burglary. I'm sorry. They deliberated for 7 hours. They convicted him on July 24th of 1979. And then they convict of murder, 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder. And these were for the assaults on Kleiner, Chandler, and Thomas. They convicted him on the murders of Bowman and Levy, and then 2 counts of burglary. The trial judge imposed death sentences for the murder conviction. So either way, he didn't get out of it. There was no way he was getting out of it. It didn't matter how much he tried, he wasn't getting out of that. So now, then 6 months later, there was a second trial, okay, that took place in Orlando. And this was for the abduction and for the murder of Kimberly Leach. And he was found guilty. And this is after less than 8 hours of the jury deliberating. And this was partially due to the testimony of an eyewitness who saw him leading Leach from the schoolyard to his broken van, or to his stolen van. So he really wasn't very careful at what he did. I mean, granted, there's a lot of murder cases that, people think they got away with it, and yeah, they get caught because, there was a witness. I don't think he thought there was a witness, and I really, truthfully, I don't think, and this is just my opinion from reading and, looking at some of the stuff, over the past whatever long I've been researching this and looking this stuff up and so forth. When he got to Florida, he didn't think things through. He really didn't. It's like he just, I don't know. It's like he just did things on the spur of the moment. I mean, yeah, there could have been some planning to it, but I don't think he really, really thought stuff through at all whatsoever. I mean, like, taking Kimberly Leach from school, I don't think he thought that through. I really don't. I don't think he thought through, okay, how am I going to do this without, being identified and being seen or so forth. He just, like I said, he didn't think all that stuff through. Obviously. I mean, he got caught, but, and then again, on the other hand, it makes me think that, okay, maybe he did all this stuff just to get caught, so that he could act like a complete, total, excuse my language, ass in court, and, put all the spotlight on him, and I don't know. So now, he's, where am I? So now they go to the penalty phase of the trial, and he takes advantage of a federal state law that's obscure. Oh my gosh, this is what I'm talking about, showboating, because this is why I'm saying I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what he was thinking, and I just thought it was just kind of freaking crazy that he did this. But he took advantage of a law that is in Florida that by providing a declaration in court of a marriage declaration in the presence of a judge that constituted a legal marriage. Now, that being said, okay, there was a former Washington State DES co-worker that she moved to Florida to be closer to Bundy, because she's in love with Bundy, la 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 la. And so and she had testified on his behalf and was testifying as a character witness, and he asked her to marry him, and she accepted, and then he declared to the court that they were legally married. I'm sorry, but the people that, the things that people go through just to kind of take the spotlight off of, oh yeah, you're being charged for all these murders. You're going to jail. You're already in jail. And, oh, you just take the spotlight off yourself and ask this woman to marry you. I mean, seriously. So, now then, on February the 10th of 1980, he was sentenced to, whoops, upside down. He was sentenced for a third time. And this time, it is for death by electrocution. And when his sentence was announced, he stood up in the courtroom and he shouts, and I'll quote, "Tell the jury they were wrong." And that's all he says. Knowing, see this, again, I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know what's going on in his mind, why he thinks, oh yeah, I'm going to get off on all these murders, when he's been caught, there's evidence, there's, basically, hairs and fibers and all these kind of things that can tie him to this. The teeth impressions that he left on, Levy's butt. And yet, oh yeah, tell them they're wrong. I mean, seriously, come on, really? I mean, you're going to go with that? Okay, whatever. So now he's, so now he's been kind of, he's back in jail. And during all the, then a year later, Carol Boone gives birth to a daughter. And no, but so she's she's got a daughter by him. Now, shortly after the Leach trial, they begin the appeals and so forth, and then he decides, okay, I'm not going to get out of jail. I'm going to put the spotlight on myself a different way. And he decides to start, allowing people to come and interview him. And he does several of these interviews. And he, he recounts his career as a thief. And, he says the big payoff for me was actually possessing whatever it was that I had stolen. So basically, whatever he stole was technically really not his, but it was, it was stolen. So he was proud of this fact that he did this. Okay, whatever. He when he killed his victims, this is what I find interesting. Now, remember I said I don't know whether he was trying to get caught or what his purpose was. He kind of tells everybody the reason, when he first killed his victims, he, it was a matter of expediency to eliminate the possibility of being caught. Then he considers, oh, it's just an adventure. So now, he's thinking, okay, this is just an adventure. I can get away with this. I've never been caught, so forth and so on. So, he really, now as to whether or not he felt that way when he was in Florida, I don't know. I don't know if that's what, he was going for there, trying to see, okay, can I get caught? Can I not get caught? I don't know. So, he does these interviews because, of course, he's sitting in jail. He's not getting out. And then he says that the ultimate possession was, in fact, taking the life. And then the physical possession of the body. So, I'm telling you, this guy is freaking strange. And, I mean, I'll say it again. He, was charming. I don't know how else to describe him. But he's just strange. That's all I can say. So now they, he also confides in the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit, a special agent from there, and he was struck. The agent was struck by the deep, almost mystical satisfaction that Bundy took in murder. In other words, how he felt about it. he relates that, it becomes a possession, and that they're a part of you. The victim becomes a part of you, and the grounds where you kill them or leave them, they become sacred, and the murderer is drawn back to them. And it, I find it just kind of freaky, weird, kind of craziness, but okay. And so now then they let's see, I'm trying to get comfortable, bear with me. So now he considered that, this is another thing that he tells the agent from the FBI, that he considered himself an amateur at one point during when he was in his early years, an impulsive, before moving into what he considers his prime. And this was about the time of Linda Healy's murder. And he does, it says that, it's implied that he began before this, because he's saying this, it's implied, okay, he began killing before 1974. So now in 1984, the prison where he is, they find 2 hacksaw blades that Bundy had hidden in his cell. Now, what he, I don't know. I mean, this man is, okay. He's going to do everything and anything. There was a steel bar that from one of the windows that had been sawed completely through at the top and glued back into place with homemade soap-based adhesive. Then several months later, they find an unauthorized mirror hidden in the cell, and he was moved to a different cell for the second time. So they really, really, he wasn't getting out, and they did everything to make sure he didn't get out. So yeah, this guy just wasn't thinking straight. I don't know why he thought, okay, I'm going to get away with this if I hide this stuff. And, okay. So now, then, he's then charged with a disciplinary infraction for unauthorized correspondence. And you'll never guess who he was corresponding with. John Hinckley Jr. Yeah. Then, in 1984, in October, he contacts Richard Cabell to offer to share his self-proclaimed expertise on serial killing, on the psychology of it. Now, mind you, during all of this, there is the hunt for the Green River Killer that was later identified as Gary Ridgway. And y'all remember I did do this, talked about this case also. And he, basically, offered his, pearls of wisdom, if you want to call it that. So now, Richard Cabell and the Green River Task Force detective interviews Bundy. Now, remember, if you remember me if you remember I can't talk today. If you remember from this video, he remains at large. Gary Ridgway remained at large for like 17 years before he was caught. And he published Richard Cabell published a detailed document of the Green River interviews, and then he wrote a book, The Riverman, Ted Bundy and I Hunt for the Green River Killer. Whoopee, right? So, and it's funny, I remember, I've heard I was watching a documentary, and I remember hearing this conversation, but it wasn't. They didn't come out and tell you, okay, this is the conversation. He was describing, what exactly is going through, this man's mind, so forth and so on, and he's making himself to be this authority kind of on the whole subject. And like I said, remember, he's in jail. He can't get out. So there's only one other way to make himself in a spotlight, and that's to do these kinds of things, interviews and so forth. Now then, less than 15 hours before he is scheduled to be electrocuted on July 7th, excuse me, wait a minute. I'm wrong. I'm skipping ahead. I apologize. In 1986, there was an execution date that was set for the Chi Omega murders or convictions. They issued a brief stay, but this was quickly rescheduled. Then, shortly after the new date of July 2nd, Bundy finally confesses what they believe to be a full range of his depredations, including details of what he did to some of his victims after their deaths. He told them that he revisited Taylor Mountain, other secondary crime scenes, often several times, to lie with his victims and perform sexual acts on the decomposing bodies until putrefaction forced him to stop, which I think is just all kinds of gross and all kinds of wrong. I mean, that's disgusting, people. Really? But then again, whatever. It's, how he is. Now, then he also, told them that he would drive for several hours each way. And in Utah, he applied makeup to Melissa Smith's body, to her face. And he, would repeatedly wash, one victim's hair repeatedly. Why? I don't know. He also then he decapitated approximately 12 of his victims with a hacksaw, and he even kept some of these heads, which I thought was just all kinds of disgustingly gross. And oh my God, believe me, when I was looking over this and reading over this kind of stuff, let me tell you, I about choked. I about bleh. He kept them in his apartment. And then 15 hours before he was scheduled to be executed, the 11th Court of Appeal stayed indefinitely and remanded the case for review. This was including his mental competency. So in other words, okay, he might not be competent according to them, but they want to know. So now they do that, and so then a new date was set for him to be executed. And this was set for November of 1986. Now, mind you, they couldn't find anything wrong with him. They couldn't find anything wrong with the case. Now, why they wanted to go, do all this, I don't know. I don't know if, his lawyer had something to do with this, or, if he was acting as his own lawyer and trying to, stop this. I'm not sure. It doesn't, I have no clue. I'm pretty sure there's probably It's probably somewhere listed, but I wrote, to be truthful, I couldn't tell you. So, after, all of this of trying to basically, I guess, get to review the case or whatever, and they basically don't find anything wrong, they set a new execution date for November. And then on November the 17th, another stay was issued. Then in 1988, they ruled against Bundy, and then in December they denied. They go through this whole process. So basically, they tried to basically stop every. I don't know what the purpose was. Again, like I said, it's probably listed and so forth. So now he's finally, I guess, finally he can't, there's nothing else he can do. And he agrees to speak with investigators. And he confesses to Keppel that he committed all of the all 8 of the Washington homicides, and all 8 of the Washington and Oregon homicides, excuse me. So now, I don't know, see, like I said, I don't know what his purpose was, why he, why he didn't want to confess to anything. I guess because now at the point, okay, I can't get out of this anymore, so I might as well go ahead and just tell them everything they want to know. I don't know. It doesn't, I think I think that was part of his strategy. I'm just going to try to get out of this, and I'm going to do everything I can to take the limelight off of, what I did, and just kind of like, okay, here we go. So he describes that there are 3 additional victims that were never identified. He says he left a 5th corpse on Taylor Mountain, but he incinerated her head in a fireplace. Then he describes the Issaquah crime scene, and I'm sorry if I butchered that, and the way that it's described, and the way they say that the guy that's interviewing Keppel says that it was almost like he was there, the way that he was describing it. He was totally consumed with all this at the time. Then he confesses to detectives in Idaho, Utah, and Colorado, and that he had committed numerous different additional homicides, and that several were unknown to the police. Then, basically he's now telling everybody, what he did. So now, after he's done all this, there's, basically no more stays of execution that's going to happen. So now all of his supporters they begin to lobby for, one option, which is clemency, and which I don't think they got, because, of course, he does end up dead. They end up executing him. But, he, it was all refused. The families, already believed that the victims were dead and that Ted killed him. And, basically, there was a statement said that, we're not going to have the system manipulated. It's, for him to be negotiating for his life for, over bodies of victims was, basically disgusting. So, he didn't quite get out of this. He basically, and I will tell you, basically, it comes down to it. The whole time that he's in jail, I think now that sitting here and you're thinking about it, the only reason that he did all this and confessed to all this stuff was because he thought that if he, was helpful and did all these interviews and helped the police with the Green River Killer and so forth and so on, that they were going to try to get his sentence changed to where he didn't have to be put to death, which, as it didn't work. So now, finally on the eve of his execution, he talks about suicide. He decides, okay, I'm not getting out of this. I'm gonna go to jail. They're not gonna, or I'm gonna be killed, executed. They're not gonna let me live out the rest of my life. And so he decides, okay, then I'm just gonna talk about killing myself. I mean, really? Who is he trying to fool? Sorry. I'm just, So, he didn't want to give the state the satisfaction of watching him die, basically, was another reason. But, what do you expect them to do? I mean, really? I mean, you killed all these women and all these, couple children or however many children, and you think, the victims' families aren't going to want to see you be electrocuted? Okay, really? Okay, if that's what you think. So now he dies in the electric chair on January the 24th, 1989. He, they were cheered, there was hundreds of people that sang and danced and set off fireworks in a pasture that was across from the prison. They cheered as the white hearse containing Bundy's corpse departed. He was cremated, and his ashes were scattered in an undisclosed location in the Cascade Range of Washington State. And this was in accordance to his will. So whether or not he really wanted to die, he had a will, which I think, okay, I mean, I don't have a will. I probably should. And of course, I'm getting older and up in age, probably should. But, that's like I said, some of the things that he does is very, that he did was very confusing. Like, he goes to trial. After taking the plea deal, knowing that he's not getting out of this now, and he goes to trial, and he wants to take the spotlight off himself, and it's very, I don't know how to describe it. It's like he doesn't realize that one way or the other, he's going to jail. One way or the other, he's getting the death penalty. And again, he's, his mind is very weird. Let's see. And it goes into, his motive, the reason he did the things he does. Then they have this pathology of his, why. It's very weird. Let's see. Now, which I thought was just, this whole thing is just kind of just really, really weird. Now, I will tell you, the night of his execution, like I said, they already were having a party in the field across from the prison. But on the night of his execution, that he confessed to 30 homicides, they he reviewed his victim tally on a state-by-state basis. Now here, this is what his tally is. Washington State, 11, including Parks, abducted in Oregon but killed in Washington, and including 3 that were unidentified. Then in Utah, there are 8, 3 unidentified. In Colorado, there are 3. Florida, 3. Oregon, 2, both unidentified. Idaho, 2, 1 unidentified. In California, 1 unidentified. And then there is a chronological summary of, his victims, which I won't get into. It's very, very detailed, because, and then there's other possible victims. And now finally, like I said, there's been several movies and films. Now I particularly, I don't usually try to watch movies like this, because some of them are very weird. And I did not, there's, good grief, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 movies. Now, I've only seen 1. And this was in 2019 that Zac Efron played him. And I just thought this whole thing was just kind of, down in the, it was weird. Just to watch the way this man acted and so forth. And there's several more. And then there's, documentaries. There's, now I don't know if there's any books. If there is, I haven't really, there aren't any, I don't see any. Now, I didn't know there was one. There's a documentary on Amazon Prime, which I haven't watched either, but I don't know if I want to watch that. But anyway, and it's his. And it's very, I'm just going to say, so, it really, these documentaries, and I know, some of you may not like this stuff, but some of this stuff really, really, really was interesting. Because I was just like, okay. It's very interesting to see how, people like him work, and how they, do these things. And it's just, I'm not saying that I'm fascinated by the way he kills people. Don't get me wrong. No. I'm just fascinated with the way, some of these people like him are just normal people. But there's something wrong with them. So yeah, it was just all kind of weird. So that's all I got today on this. And I apologize that it took so long to get it back up and get moving. Hopefully next week will be a little bit better. So thank you for watching. Please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to comment below. And if there is a case that you would like me to talk about, please make sure you put it down in the description box, or down in the comment section, description box. Oh my gosh. And again, thank you for watching. I hope everyone has a great week, and I will see you all next time.